love to know. Mom looked at her hand and then spoke. Yes, I see you have a tough life, but I also see something really positive here. Sweetheart, even with all the hardships, you'll make it big one day. Just trust that, okay? Arya was practically living in a mansion. Mom had it so wrong. Gosh, Mom, enough of this, please. No, it's fine. That was really nice. Thank you. Mom offered Arya a ride home, and when we stopped outside her house, Mom said, "Oh, this is where you live? I've come here several times because your mom buys my candles. She never mentioned she had kids, though." I guess she isn't so proud of me. Thanks for the ride. I gotta go. And before Mom could say anything else, Arya walked off and went inside. I wasn't quite sure what she meant by that, but I realized that she hardly ever talked about her parents. After that day, Arya and I grew closer, and she started coming over to my place for sleepovers too. She actually enjoyed Mom's company, and I finally had a friend who didn't find my mom weird. Things were going good, but my happiness was short-lived because just a few days later, I was performing a recital at school, and Mom burst into the auditorium looking panicked. "Esmeralda, you left the house without being blessed." Oh no. And then, Mom lit a roll of sage and jumped onto the stage, circling around me with smoke. That set off the smoke detectors, and we had fire alarms blaring and sprinklers going off everywhere. There was chaos in the entire school. Everyone was screaming and running. It was a wet mess, all because of Mom. Well, that was just a false alarm. Sorry, folks. Mom, are you completely crazy? You ruined everything. Everybody is staring at us now, and I'll be the butt of everyone's joke. Honey, aren't you overreacting a little? No one will even remember this incident by tomorrow. I'm overreacting? Gosh, Mom, you really don't get it. You do weird things and it puts people off, and no one here forgets. We'll just be hearing about this till the end of high school. Sometimes I wish you'd just be more normal. I regretted my words as soon as I saw the hurt look on her face, but I was too mad to apologize. And it was true. I'd had enough. When I went to school after the weekend, I could feel people looking at me. And then Caleb popped out of nowhere. Wow, amazing that you can show your face after the stunt your psycho mom pulled off. But before I could say anything, somebody leapt forward and pushed him hard. Arya, buzz off, jerk, and don't talk about her mom like that. She is 10 times the person you'll ever be. Yeah, 10 times crazier. Better crazy than a loser. Seriously, dude, no one cares about what you have to say. So why don't you just go and get a life? I was really grateful to have a friend like Arya on my side, but it was just her, because everyone else said and thought the same things as Caleb. I tried to ignore them, but at home, I also grew distant from Mom. I just wanted to be 18 and get out of this place, and maybe even from her. It was almost the end of the term, and we were busy preparing for the school's talent show. Arya and I had paired up for a dance-off, but during practice one day, we found out that our favorite music teacher was leaving soon. We all really wanted to get her a farewell gift, so the entire class pitched in money and gave it to the class monitor the next day. During recess, I realized I'd forgotten my lunch in the classroom, and when I went to go get it, I got the shock of a lifetime. Arya was taking out money from the class monitor's bag. Arya, what are you doing? Oh, I found it on the floor. It must have fallen out of her bag. I was only putting it back. Just then, Caleb suddenly walked in, and he started yelling at the top of his lungs. Oh my God, thieves! His yelling attracted some other kids, and he told them he'd caught us stealing the money red-handed. Ultimate jerk! We were both taken to the principal's office, and she called our moms, but only my mom showed up. Stealing? That's impossible. My girls could never do such a thing. I know my daughter. And I can also vouch for Arya. You better check that kid Caleb. He's always been trouble. And what a coincidence that he caught the girls. Mom took my hand and squeezed it gently.
On my mental health because I realized that I always depended on validation from men. It was the happiest I'd ever been. My family even saw the changes in me, and my mom told me that maybe it was time for me to start dating. Last year, my sister signed up to a bunch of dating apps, and she actually met some really good men. I really thought about it long and hard, and I decided to sign up for one too. And I told myself that I would take it slow and easy. Finally, I went on my first date. It didn't go very well because my date only talked about himself and didn't ask me any questions. But then my second date was this amazing guy. And I kid you not, it was love at first sight. Part 2 is up. Part 2 of how I married my blind date after knowing each other for only 2 weeks. So I walk into the restaurant and I know what he looks like. He was already sitting at the table, but as soon as we locked eyes, it was instant attraction. But not just attraction, it was love. I honestly don't know how to describe it. It was this feeling I'd never felt before. When I sat down at the table, we instantly connected. We talked about everything, from our childhoods up until that point. We talked about school, friends, even our favorite foods, favorite colors, places we wanted to visit. I'm talking about everything. We even talked about our family problems, which I had never done that with anyone else. We basically ordered the entire menu. And over the next 5 hours, we talked and ate and laughed. You know when there's moments of silence in a conversation, and sometimes it's awkward? There was none of that. We were constantly talking and asking each other questions. The restaurant actually had to tell us to go home. When we said goodbye, he asked me if he could take me to breakfast the next day. And of course, I said yes. As I was driving home, I knew that this was the guy I wanted to marry. For the next week, we hung out almost every single day when we weren't working. And we texted each other day and night. He would send me paragraphs. By the end of the week, he asked me if he could meet my parents. We had a wonderful dinner and my parents loved him. He put so much effort into talking to them and even brought them gifts. The following day, I met his family. And they loved me too. The following Monday, he asked me to move in with him and I said yes. Part 3 is up. Part 3 of how I married my blind date after only knowing each other for 2 weeks. After 1 week of knowing each other, he asked me to move in. Like I said, my parents loved him, but when I told them that we were going to move in together after knowing each other for 1 week, they thought it was a terrible idea. But there was no way I was backing out on moving in with him. I told him that this was a risk I was willing to take. I was a grown adult, so I had the final word. That very same week, I started moving all my stuff in. After living together for 3 days, we were having so much fun. I was living with my best friend. We would tell each other everything. We decided to host a dinner for our family and friends. His family got along really well with my family, and his friends ended up loving me. By the end of that second week, my boyfriend was talking about getting married, and I said it would be a dream to marry him. And guess what? The next day, he takes me out for an early breakfast. While we're sitting at the restaurant, the server brings over a box, and he tells me to open it. And inside was a beautiful emerald ring. I had told him on our first date that emeralds were my favorite stones. He got down on one knee and asked me to marry him. And I said yes. In order to avoid having to convince our families, we went straight to the court and got married the following day. Yes, I know it's totally crazy, but I am so happy. We've been married now for 3 years. We've traveled to 8 different countries, and we also decided to have children. I never thought I would marry the man of my dreams after 2 weeks of knowing him, but my risk paid off. What should we name our first baby? Should I tell my mom that my stepdad is putting the moves on me? AKA her husband. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. My mom and I have always had a really good relationship. She's pretty much been my best friend all throughout my life. I was bullied heavily in school, so I always confided in my mom. I tell my mom everything, even about boys. When I was in high school, my parents got divorced. Right after the divorce, my mom had set her sights on this one guy. He lived in our neighborhood, was single, and had a lot of money. Now, you could say my mom wanted his money, or you could say that she fell in love with him. I'm not sure which one. They ended up getting married right when I turned 17. My mom and I moved into his house, and it was amazing. It was actually more like a mansion. He had a pool, a movie theater, and a tennis court. So my house was the house that all my friends would come to. And my mom was really happy, I could tell. But there were a few things that I didn't like about my new stepdad. For example, whenever my friends would come over, he would always try to hang out with us. At first, I thought it was just really annoying. But after a year of this happening, I realized it was actually kind of gross. So I opened up to my mom and I told her that I didn't like him hanging around my friends. And my mom laid the hammer down. After that, he would not come around at all whenever my friends and I were downstairs. Here's where things start to get a little icky. When I turned 19, I could tell he was staring at me more and more. Part 2 is, should I tell my mom that my stepdad, her husband, is trying to hit on me? Disclaimer, is not my story time. I sent me on Instagram. When I turned 19 is when I started noticing that he would stare at me more and more. I usually would walk around the house in my bikini whenever I was gonna go in the pool. Sometimes I would wear shorts and crop tops around the house, or be in a sports bra and leggings whenever I was working out. But his staring clearly made me uncomfortable. So I literally had to change the way that I dressed. And I didn't want to tell my mom just because I thought maybe I was reading too much into it. Instead, I told my best friend. And when I told my best friend, she told me that I needed to be really careful around him. She told me I shouldn't even be alone with him in the house. I started to get really paranoid. One day, my stepdad asked me why I stopped dressing the way that I used to. Point blank, I said to him, well, you stare a lot and it makes me uncomfortable. The smile on his face turned into pure anger. Then he started calling me stupid and ignorant. He said that I was dumb for thinking that and that he was totally in love with my mom and that he would never ever see me that way. But he continued to stare at me. A few months later, we decided to have a party on my mom's birthday. Well, my stepdad got hammered, and when no one was looking, he sat down next to me and put his hand on my lap. That's when he said that he missed the...
They started a YouTube channel called Prankster Husband. The idea was for my dad to pull pranks on my mom. His first prank was shaving off one of her eyebrows. It took 2.5 months for her eyebrow to grow back. My parents' first prank video had 220,000 views. Finally, they found their dream job. Thanks to YouTube, they were both having fun and making money. I became accustomed to hearing my mother screaming every day. In one of the pranks, my dad sneaked up on my mom while she was doing her makeup. Then, out of nowhere, he took out 2 fresh eggs and cracked them on her head. My mom's shriek shook the whole house. There was egg yolk all over her hair and clothes. When she realized it was a prank, "Look what you did! I just showered," she grumbled. My dad, on the other hand, laughed until his belly hurt. He was now spending all of his day preparing pranks. The pranks weren't fake. My mom was genuinely reacting to them because she didn't know what was coming, and the viewers loved it. They were very happy, but I couldn't say the same for myself. For me, life was unbearable. If I was with my mom while my dad was doing a prank, then I became the victim as well. I didn't mind a little prank once in a while, but my dad was usually carrying things too far. In our house, my dad usually prepares breakfast and my mom does dinner. One morning, my dad had made me eggs with sausage. My mom wasn't in the kitchen yet. I sat down at the table and cut a piece of the sausage on my plate and started chewing. Words cannot express the pain I felt at that moment. The sausage was so hot, it was as if smoke was coming out of my ears. I started screaming in panic. I was putting whatever I could find into my mouth to stop the burn, but nothing helped. My face was red as a lobster. I was running around the kitchen. My dad started laughing out loud. "Oh, Selena, I'm so sorry. I had prepared that sausage for your mom, but gave it to you by mistake," he said. Then he took out the milk from the fridge and gave it to me. Thankfully, drinking milk helped the burn. Apparently, my dad put the world's hottest pepper inside that sausage for his new prank. Yep, you heard that right. The world's hottest pepper. I was naturally very angry with my dad. But when he said this was an accident and apologized many times, I let it go. Still, I wanted to politely warn my parents. "I get it. You found your dream job. You're having a lot of fun, but please, don't include me in your pranks," I said. That day, they both promised me. I believed them because they looked really genuine, but I would soon find out that it was a mistake. My parents' YouTube channel had reached 200,000 subscribers. That meant they were making enough money to pay for rent and bills. But they had an important issue. Innocent pranks like cracking eggs on a victim's head got less views. The viewers wanted my dad to do mean pranks like putting the world's hottest pepper into the sausage. The more the victim, that's my mom, suffered, the more fun the viewers had. My dad obeyed their demands and increased the meanness level on every prank from there on. One day, we went to visit my grandmother. On the way back, my mom was at the wheel. I was in the back seat. I was telling them about something that happened to me at school. Then, my dad took out a paper bag. Then he started shaking it before he released what was inside. 12 wasps. Suddenly, the wasps took over the whole car. My mom and I began to panic. We were screaming and yelling. My dad was filming us while belting out big laughs. My mom was trying to shoo away the wasps with one hand and hold onto the wheel with the other. Something bad was bound to happen. She lost control of the car and went off the road. My dad was still thinking about the video he was shooting. He was saying, "This is the best prank I've pulled so far." Suddenly, we hit a tree. Then everything went dark. I was hearing voices from afar, but I couldn't make out what they were talking about. It was as if I was down in the bottom of the ocean. The voices started coming closer. After a while, I could hear better. It was my dad's voice. "Our daughter will be fine, honey. Please don't worry. Didn't you hear what the doctor said? She might come to at any moment." I tried to open my eyes, but I couldn't. I tried to speak, but I couldn't do that either. At that moment, I realized I was in a coma. I couldn't react at all. I could only hear them. My dad started talking again. "Wow, our wasp prank video has over 1.5 million views. I knew it was going to get attention, but I didn't think it was going to be this popular." My mom said, "Honey, okay, the video got so many views, but don't you see what's going on with our daughter? I can't be happy about views when she's in this condition." My dad replied, "Don't worry, love. I'm sure Selena will be okay in less than an hour. At first, she'll be mad with us, but she'll understand when she sees how many views the video's getting. Plus, this wasn't intentional, it was an accident." Then he said, "Do you mind getting us something to drink from the hospital cafeteria? I wouldn't say no to some coffee right now." I heard footsteps and understood that my mom had left the room. Then my dad started pushing my bed. What was happening? Where was he taking me? I was spiraling down, lost in these thoughts. The voices were going away. It was as if I was going back into the depths of the ocean. After a while, I completely lost consciousness. When I came to, my mom was crying and my dad was laughing. My dad said, "How could you even believe that? I didn't think I could fool you so easily." My mom said, giggling, "Well, when I came back, Selena wasn't here and I was so scared. When you said Selena isn't doing so well, she went into surgery, I almost fainted." My dad sounded so proud. As soon as you left, I took Selena's bed into the empty room next door. I pushed the empty bed from that room to here. The only thing left to do was for me to look panicked. My mom took a deep breath. "I keep forgetting what a good actor you are. You got me again." "Did you get my full reaction?"